This week's episode of Mind Gap Podcast is brought to you by sunblocker inserts for your actual glasses. Sunglasses are stupid. Yeah, you heard me. You either buy some that are insanely expensive and they get broken or lost, you buy some cheap ones that fall apart, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. No more, I say. Introducing sunblocker inserts for your actual glasses. That's right. These are thin, acceptable pieces of material that you simply slide on the inside of your glasses to protect you from the sun. No need to buy a separate pair of sunglasses and swap them out as you go inside or outside. No need to have the transition lenses that look like some low-grade, disappointing spy tech that freaks people out as they slowly go from dark to light as you walk inside a building. Just reach into your pocket, pull out your sunblocker inserts for your actual glasses, and slip them on and you're good to go. To those who say, but I don't wear glasses, how is this supposed to help me? Well, these aren't for you, asshole. Go find something else to brag about. Head on over to sunglassesaresstupid.com today to pick up your box of sunblocker inserts for your actual glasses. Enter the code MINDGAP at checkout to get 10% off your first order and to be entered into a contest to win sunblocker inserts for your actual eyes. The new and improved product coming soon. Hey dorks. Just a quick message reminding you to head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast and give us a follow. We live stream when we record our new podcast episodes, and we're live streaming video game sessions on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're playing super rad stuff like Among Us, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Jackbox games, and Tabletop Simulator. Come hang out and play along with us. That's twitch.tv/mindgappodcast.
Mind Gap Podcast.
Welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And happy day to you, listener.
It
wherever
is a day.
you may be. It is a day. It's been
And
days.
whatever day you're choosing to listen to this on, it is a day on that day.
It is a day to be reckoned with.
Right.
In one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the reckoning will happen for Jared. Should we just dive right in?
Couple things before we get to that. All right. We'll put a pin in that. We'll definitely talk about it. Just real quick, I want to say, if you guys don't know, we're on Spotify. It's a cool site where you can listen to music and also podcasts. Check us out on Spotify. We're also on many other platforms, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. We have our episodes on YouTube, Google Play. But Spotify in particular is a pretty cool thing, and you should check us out there. That's where we are there. Just saying, in case you didn't know.
Here's the thing. I spend most of my working day on Spotify, that in the background, and I challenge you to find me one person who is not the same.
Yeah.
You're on Spotify. Just look us up.
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah,
we can
we're there.
be there forever. So check that out. Also, don't forget, we've got merch. If you're on Twitch, head straight down. There's a little tile down there. Click it right there. If you're listening, it's teespring.com/stores/2E8.
Do you have it?
It's downstairs.
Oh, come on.
I know. I didn't come I realized as I started talking about this, I'm like, fuck, I don't have it. I got my face mask. I got my Mind Gap face mask today. And it's
Doug sent me a
very
picture,
cozy.
and he was very safe.
Man, it covers so much of my face, and I love it. Because the other one I have doesn't really. It's more of
Really?
like a banana hammock for my face.
Interesting.
You know, or maybe it's
For
a
the
thong. It just covers, right here. It just kind
Are
of
you
goes
sure?
straight down.
Doug, are you sure you have a face mask and not just a straight up thong?
I don't know. It says it protects holes.
That's fair.
So,
We might want to talk off mic about this.
But yeah, we got merch. We got face masks. 2 East 8th face mask. Mind Gap face mask. And also, we're going to be having a new edition come very soon. It's
Man.
I haven't uploaded it yet, but I was showing it and kind of getting some final last looks, final touches. But it's inspired.
People can't get enough gobby.
Based on that quote right there. It's a Dungeon Karen's themed shirt called. It's got a goblin on it. It says, "You can't handle a gobby." And for the record, Jared said he could never buy that shirt, because it is.
I would.
Two meanings. It's a hidden
here's the
meaning
thing.
here, but not
Jared
in Australia.
Jared might not need to buy the shirt. He might just get one showing up at his place, and he will be required to wear it around Perth.
I told him he should wear it and support the podcast and support the thing that he does on the Twitch stream and wear it to Casual Friday at work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see nothing wrong with this.
In case you don't know, gobby is another term for blowjob in Australia. So, which I
is
find
why
I find
people
that
can't get enough gobby.
right.
that's why. Yeah.
I find gobby to be such a more abrasive phrase. Blowjob is obviously like we know and understand what it is, but it'd be like a gobby. I just imagine like a very. This is probably a horrible way of describing it, but someone's gobbling something up, right? Someone just at a buffet, just amount of stuff, just gobble, gobble, gobble. It's like, yeah, that to me is, it's got to.
I think you've gotten to the crux of the word.
Yeah, gob, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, we did it. But anyway, I'm going to be posting that. I think it's pretty cool. Slotty says, crikey, that Sheila just gave me a gobby to my didgeridoo. It's not meant to be a sexy term for it. I imagine it's probably like,
meant to be,
hey,
but it is.
I throat fucked someone last night. I don't think that's a romantic way of putting that, so I get it, you know? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about.
What I mean.
You know what I mean. You're with
Jared,
me.
there's a lot of things that aren't meant to sound a certain way. It's not our fault that it does sound sexy.
Most things out of men's mouths are not sexy, even though in our minds we think it's sexy. You know,
right?
It doesn't go that way.
It's a pretty good baseline rule right there.
One of my favorite things I saw was like, it was years ago. This comedian goes, man, guys just can't be sexy. Like a woman could come into your room, knock the door open, have some lingerie on and be like, oh, whatever. She's like, let's have sex. He's like, what's a guy going to do?
Right.
He's basically going to pull out his dick and be like, you ready to do this? And like, there's just nothing sexy about that. Like, cause
that looks so gross and phallic.
Exactly. That's what comes to everyone's mind. So
it does. I think that's the funny thing is that, there's really nothing. No one desires that.
Yeah.
Just someone pulling out his fucking, meat rocket and going, eh.
It's like, you know what? It's like, no, that's not cool.
Nope. Sorry, fella. Not into it. Yeah.
I mean, if you play a cards right, we'll get there. But right now, it's not making me happy. So
that doesn't just turn it on. Yeah.
Slotty says, ever wonder why British porn is a category, but Australian distinctly isn't? This is part and parcel to that.
Slotty, not many people know that he is a Rhodes Scholar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Very astute observations right there.
So, long story short, we got merch. We got a new thing that's going to be coming soon. Check that out. teespring.com/stores/2E8. That's the number 2, the letter E, the number 8. Or if you're on Twitch, just hit the panel down below. You'll find it. And then one last thing before we kind of get into stuff is last weekend was a good time on the video game live stream. We played Pummel Party. It was me, it was Slotty, and it was Jared. And, if you don't know what Pummel Party is, essentially it is Violent Mario Party. You have a board of spaces. You roll dice. You try to get to where you need to go. You're trying to unlock chests, earn keys, and prevent everyone else. And when Mario Party, it's very fun. It's silly. And this one, it's extremely violent. You can hit people with wrecking balls. You can let loose the horrific terror known as the White Rabbit that murders you. You can drop radioactive fluid on them. You can shoot them. All sorts of stuff. You can set up traps. It's very, very good. It's very fun. And we cut together a little bit of a highlight reel that's available on our YouTube channel right now. So go check that out. It is portrayed that we picked on Jared in that footage, but Slotty hands down got the worst of it throughout the whole night. Like hands down, he's just, especially the last round, we just piled on him for whatever reason.
It's funny because this is turning into a he said thing. So like it's you and Slotty saying, no, Slotty got the worst of it. And Jared, as well as the highlight reel, back up the fact that Jared just got absolutely shit on.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. Jared had the most...
Just now, he goes lies.
Here's the thing. Jared had the most memorable moment of the night. And that moment involved... We didn't stab you in the back. We misled you, okay? I am diminishing the accountability for the actions that took place. So we essentially intentionally confused Jared into making a bad decision. And when it didn't go right, he wasn't too pleased. So Yeah, we didn't even show the time where Jared dumped toxic waste on himself. He was like, "What's this do?" And he dumped it on himself. So, but one of my there are knives in my back, says Jared. Etoy, welcome back, man. Good to see you. But essentially, we had a really good time. It was very silly. It was obnoxious, and I can't wait to do it again. But this coming Saturday, the 25th, definitely come by the stream because we're hitting up Jackbox games again, and we will be joined by the wonderful duo from the Reviewniverse podcast. Steve Leishman and Chris Miller will be coming by to hang out with us and play along. So we've got Jackbox 3, 5, and 6. So we've got Hotel Murder Trivia. We've got Quiplash. We've got Joke Boat. We've got all sorts of shit. So we will be having some fun. So come check that out. That's 8 p.m. Saturday night, the 25th, Central Time, twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Come hang out. Have a good time. It's going to be great. And also, while we're doing that, let's celebrate Justin's birthday. That'll be Justin's birthday. And, turning 40 is a big deal. So I just want to...
And when I get there in 3 years, I'll let you know how big of a deal
Watching your face as I said that, like the corners of your mouth just sort of dipped a little bit. You're like, that's not true. But you also thought about it. And I was like...
Yeah.
So, real good stuff. We have a really good thing. Slotty already says Slotty says he's got his theme already for Joke Boat, so this should be fun. I can't wait.
I'm sure it's going to. Was Jackbox Games was the one that when we played, it was that one where there was a space station and there were 3 alien invaders. And we had to. That was Jackbox, right?
Yeah, that was a game we played once and haven't played since.
That was batshit. That game was.
That's a game you have to play with people that are on your chat, because playing with randos, there's no way to tell like what's going on because you have to basically interrogate people. And I'd love to do that again and figure like there's some of that shit. There's another one that's kind of like find the intruder. We got another one of those, so I'd love to do that at some point. So yeah.
It'd be good time. Good time, Charlies.
Good time, Charlies. So, tonight we got a couple of cool things to talk about. And the first one being that apparently David Ayer has a cut of Suicide Squad.
I'm going to do this.
Both cheer and booze.
I don't know how to feel about it. Maybe it's just this.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much where it's at. Cause I don't know, man. Suicide Squad has kind of sucked.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that movie happened. It was created, it was released, and it's in the annals of history. So, the fact that anyone would be clamoring for an extra 20 minutes in a cut, that's not going to save that movie. I'll guarantee you that much.
It's definitely not going to save the movie. I think, from what I understand, it's 20 minutes of mostly Joker footage, which they said that they had enough footage to make his own film.
Mm-hmm.
And then he appeared in 7 minutes in the final cut, something like that. Again, I don't know if there's part of me that wonders if this is to make amends to Jared Leto and to try to like coax him back into the fold of DC, because after that, he completely swore. He's like, fuck that. I'm not doing it anymore. Because he was rightfully so pissed. Yeah.
I mean,
but
he was probably one of the more compelling parts of the movie. I mean, just seeing what he did and everything like that. I honestly don't remember too much about it. I remember being 32 minutes in and pausing it and going like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And
it was crazy.
Our friend Sam, who just recently watched it for the famous quoter of "I will haunt your butt," said that he was an hour in and he was debating whether or not he was just going to stop watching. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that kind of sums up that movie. That movie is a mess.
See, this is where your brother and I line up, though. An hour in, I'm like, well, I'm pot committed at this point, so I've got to stay in and I've got to see the flop, or I've got to see the
river
turn, whatever is it? Yeah,
I don't know.
What's the fifth one?
I don't know. The river.
I think it's the turn.
Wait, because it's the flop, the turn, and then the river.
That's the one. It's the river.
Yeah.
Yep, guys, we did it.
We did it. We forded the river.
You died of dysentery. No, the one thing that I think I mentioned to you, and the only thing that I really want to speak on this is that I truly don't help. I truly hope that this does not become the new rallying cry for
Yeah.
everyone. Release the blank cut, because
Mhm.
we've got release the Snyder cut happened for so many fucking years, and now it's happening. You know, there was that denial period where it doesn't exist, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and then
Yeah.
it does exist. They won't let us release it, and then we're throwing $30 million behind it and we'll release it. And now the Ayers cut, I really hope that people aren't going to try to save shitty movies by insisting there's another cut out there.
Yeah, because honestly, there can't be that much footage to make it better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there just can't be. Like, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of any situation, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong on this, where somehow is a hidden amount of footage that someone could then insert into a movie to make it better after it was that bad. I mean, I've seen some director's cuts with a couple of extra scenes that have added, but I've also seen director's cuts where I'm like, you fucked up this movie. How dare you? Two I can think of off the top of my head. One is Aliens. The director's cut has a lot of additional scenes. Now, one of them is super helpful because it gives Ripley more of an understanding as to why she's so infatuated with Newt, because she finds out that her daughter died because she was in hypersleep for 50 years. So she feels like she's a shitty mom because she wasn't there for her. And then, but the rest of it's like, there's all this additional footage of everyone on this colony, and it makes it so less great when they land on the colony. There's nobody there. Like, it's so much terrifying where you see everyone. I don't know, it was just a really poorly done. And then the other one was I got the director's cut of American Gangster with Denzel Washington, and that was a shit show because they added a whole new ending to it, which ruined the film, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I would rather just there may be some situations where like, wow, that scene's better now because it's a director's cut, but I don't give a shit. Like, I just don't, especially for a movie like Suicide Squad, where it's like, look, guys, we swung and we missed. Okay. For whatever reason, whoever's fault it is, we didn't get there.
Let it go.
All right. Just let it go. Just let it go. Like, I don't give a shit.
I would like to request that everyone on Twitch, all of our listeners, I want to start a campaign. All right. And I would love all of you to take to Twitter and start hashtag release the Stanton cut of John Carter. I know there's a longer version of that film out there. And if they could just throw in another, I don't know, $16 million. Let's round it up to an even 300 mil, right? Let's throw that in. Oh, that's the box office. No, 50 million. It was made for 250. 50 million more dollars and a couple extra hours of that movie, I think would really make it. So hashtag release the Stanton cut. I want that trending by tomorrow afternoon, please.
Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Old fashioned heathen, welcome. Thank you for joining the podcast.
What is Twitter? It's a cesspool of which you need not dip your toe.
It's an angry place. Let me tell you that much. I've been really proud of myself because the last couple of days I've clicked on something and I've been like, oh man, do not go down this rabbit hole. Do not read these comments. You will be so angry if you do. Please don't do it. And thankfully I didn't, and I was very pleased at the outcome. So
Etoy, it's Stanton. Stanton. Release the Stanton cut. You're welcome.
But that being said, another movie news too. It was noted that Tenet, the next Christopher Nolan film, is now delayed indefinitely because I know Nolan is 100% adamant about his film being released in theaters. How do you feel about that?
We talked about this a couple podcasts ago, right? About how movie theaters need to kind of embrace this, and I think we brought Tenet up in that episode. There's no reason, if you're sitting on this movie, so many people put their time and effort into this movie, and there's no telling. I know AMC has something on their website now where they're saying we are officially opening on July 30th is when our theaters will open. We'll see you then. But I cannot imagine there's going to be droves and droves of people going to the theater. So,
Yeah.
Is Tenet going to be released? Well, no, it's not. I mean, they've delayed it indefinitely. So you're going to just let hundreds of people put their heart and soul into this movie. a lot of people really want to see it. Why would you not just get this art out to its fans or its people? I disagree with the decision. I understand Nolan has a very specific vision for it, and I do respect that. And I would love to see it in the theater as he wanted us to see it. I would love to see that. But personally, I'd rather just see the movie.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely in your camp of that. And actually, I saw, what was it, the movie picture union for people who get crabby about things. Basically, one of those guys was saying
they're still working on an acronym.
How disappointed they was. Like, I hope other people don't take this as the way to move forward. And Slotty said it here too, that they were saying that they may actually do piecemeal releases for this film, which I think is a terrible idea. One being that this movie is kind of built on suspense and not understanding what the movie is, so inevitably there will be leaks, there will be spoilers, and I think it will ruin the whole experience of it.
Sure.
And I think that it could work, but honestly, I mean, I don't know. I think this is obviously a movie theater experience, but at the same time, how long are you going to delay this, man? And not only that, the studios have to make some kind of money this year. Like,
that's what I'm saying, man.
They have to make something, and if they choose to wait, and Old Fashioned Heathen says here drive-ins, that would be good. I don't think there's that many, and that's the problem.
Not. In the fall, I wanted to talk about this on a different podcast, more in depth, but there are movies. There's a company that's it's movies in a boat. So they let you go in these little like 2 to 3 seater boats, and you anchor yourself, and there's a giant floating screen, and it's a drive-in on the water. So there's other ways that drive-ins, and if you live near water, that option, like you can get out there and do it. But to your point, its global release is earlier, that like it's gonna leak. So just fucking release it everywhere and let everyone enjoy it together, so everyone can be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, honestly, like, I'd love to go to the theater, but I don't know the next time I'm gonna go to a theater, man. Old Fashioned Heathen says leak it all over.
Leak it all.
Leak it everywhere.
Oh, we're gonna take this plot, we're gonna dump it all on your face and your hands and your kid. All right, what's up?
I love you.
Yes, you do. Don't ever forget that.
Just gonna go ahead and timestamp that there, just real quick.
Jesus!
For a potential highlight.
Heathen, I like you. I don't know who you are, but I like
you. Likewise,
you bring out the best in me.
I'll say this much too. E-Toys makes a joke here to Jared saying, hey, come on, isn't it a fun tradition for you guys in Australia to wait 3 months before an American-produced movie heads down under? I mean, to be fair, we could probably deserve a little bit of that treatment,
Yep.
The entitlement of like, oh, it's got to start here.
Right.
Other countries are doing okay. Like, I think South Korea, they mentioned, would be a good spot because it's, not too bad over there. They could start there. And I'm like, now I'll say this much too. If they thought piracy was bad before,
Jesus Christ, right? I didn't even consider that. Honestly,
yeah, it would be rampant over here. Yeah. I know it would be.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Again, I personally would say I would like it to see released in theaters wherever it can be, and then also drop it to rent on your Apples or your wherever, and just make it available because.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the best way to make your money, because if you do piecemeal, especially with a movie like this, I don't think it's going to pan out that well.
It's going to lose its steam. People will go, you know what? Fuck this. It's been like, it got hyped, pushed, and people eventually are going to go, fuck it. I'm done. I'm on to the next thing.
I'd say the same thing about Black Widow. Just release it. Pick a date and release it. Like,
yes,
these movies need to be released this year. I would think, for the sake of the balance sheets, which is what that guy from the
release the movie cut.
The guy from the Crabby Movie Theaters Union of America was like, their balance sheets, they can't keep doing this forever. And they're just and I get it. They're scared that movie theaters or movie companies are going to just start releasing this stuff, and they're not going to be able to be involved with it, and they're going to lose out on that. It could eventually severely hurt their businesses. I get that. But I mean, how long are you going to hold off on this stuff? And I think that's what the movie theaters are hoping on. They're banking on the fact that they're going to come in. But inevitably, you do it too soon, people aren't going to show up. It's going to be bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas I've always unfortunately see it from the movie producers and the movie company situation where what is the better option? Do you take your chance at the theaters and not have a good deal, or just release it worldwide? I mean, we've seen success with children's movies. I don't know. I'd love to see it tested with something like Tenet. I'd love to see it tested with a Marvel movie like Black Widow to see how it does. Because with kids movies, it makes sense. Parents are like, fuck yes, let's not go to the movies. Let's just do it at home.
Right.
But
I know with a Marvel movie for sure, they're looking for Widow to bank at least. I mean, if it does anything less than like, I don't know, 750 million to, just shy, basically 750 million to just under $1 billion. If it does anything less than that, like that, it's not, if they were to release it in a normal time, that's where they would be looking for it to trend.
yeah,
They're going to have to, I think they're just going to have to adjust what their metrics are for a successful movie.
yeah.
I don't know if they can hit those in the current climate, and they might have to be okay with that. And it's
That's
not the movie's
a really
fault.
good point. Is that they're going to have to sacrifice somewhere. They're not going to get. My brother made actually an interesting point. He goes, I don't know if we're going to see an Endgame experience ever again. Like,
Yeah.
we may not get a movie that grosses $2 billion again. Like that just may not happen.
Well, just wait until Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5 come out. All right. Avatar 2 through 5 are going to rock us.
Oh my God. I think there needs to be some. It sucks because they poured their money into this like everyone was going to go to the theater, but it's one of those things where you're going to have to accept there's going to be a loss on this. Probably. Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe. Because again, I will absolutely. I don't rent movies. I will absolutely pay $20 to rent Black Widow. I will pay $20 to rent Tenet. And I will carve out time and I'll watch the shit out of that. I will absolutely do that. Like, I will have no problem with that at all. But I don't know. I'm not going to a theater anytime soon. And I love theaters. I'm not doing it. I don't feel comfortable doing it, and I don't want to do it. So I'm not going. I'm not bringing my daughter there. It ain't happening. So for me personally, selfishly, I'm like, put it out there in a spot where I can get it easily, and I'll pay the money, man. I'm happy to do that. That makes me very, very excited. So.
Slotty says, can you imagine an AMA and a live chat during or after Tenet or Black Widow theater stream?
Ooh. Dude.
I'm just saying.
Have Scarlett Johansson in the chat for a special few. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Slotty penned our very first blog on 2 East 8's website. And in it, he mentions something like, he basically talks about this, and he brings up that point about like how cool of an experience if maybe you pay $50 and you get to be part of a 50-person AMA where you absolutely will get a chance to ask a question.
Ooh, dude, that's
like,
so
how
cool
is that?
Yeah, you make it like a live stream. You're absolutely like, it's like a Twitch thing or something. Because Tom Segura did that recently, where he did a benefit for a leukemia hospital. Yeah, and you paid X amount of dollars. You got in a Zoom chat with him, and you got to chat with him, and he was there for like an hour. Like, he was just sitting there answering questions and stuff. Did a great job for the charity. He got to expose the fans. He got to do stuff. Fans got to talk to him. That's a wonderful idea. What a great way to make the best of this situation. I love that. Yeah. That's why I'm not an entrepreneur. I can't think of that shit.
For it.
Yeah. Dude, you can't charge $100. People will pay it. People will absolutely pay it. 100% they would do that. Yeah. That's fuck. I don't know what I would do if it was like, cool, I'm now on a live stream. Now, granted, again, if it's just, just people just constantly chatting like crazy or something like that. Yeah. But still to be like, hey, this guy's live on my screen right now would be kind of cool. Like, it'd be a cool experience. Like, so Tenet comes out and you got Rob Pattinson and David Washington sitting there and they're answering questions about it, or Nolan himself. Like, that'd be fucking absurd. That'd be so cool. What a cool, dude. Yeah. Especially something like Tenet. Like, to watch it and be like, my mind's fucked right now. Right. Nolan, what did you think about this? What were you doing here? And I know they probably like to save that stuff for like articles or like DVD extras or whatever. But I mean, what a great thing. Oh.
Right. Or maybe take one of those AMAs, record it, and then put it as the special feature on when you buy it digitally or on the DVD. Like, there's so many different ways to slice this. You ask John David Washington, you're like, hey, I had a question about this part in the movie. And then he tells you face to face, he's like, I still don't get the movie. I still don't understand the fucking thing.
Look, I love it, but I don't understand shit.
I don't get it. I was in it. I don't get
So Itoi says, I also feel the scum of the internet will also make Scarlett Johansson ask me anything in OnlyFans chat.
Yeah, unfortunately, you'd have to really figure out a way to vet
moderators.
all of that.
You gotta have moderators.
You gotta have the mods. Yep,
You gotta have the
true.
mods on. They gotta have trigger fingers going like pew pew pew, just shooting that shit down, ready to go.
AMA on a 7-second delay.
That's right. That sounds like a name of an album or something. Or a line in a song. We had the AMA on a 7-second delay. Because they're creepy. Chris Evans as the mod. That's actually a really good point. And Itoi, you make a very good point. That's 100% where this would go. Like, this would go to the dark side real fast. Was it you that was telling me this, or maybe it was Jill? That in most of like the interviews that Scarlett Johansson went on for her press tours, she was getting asked just the shittiest questions. You know, like
that doesn't surprise me at all.
They were just like, you know, how'd you stay thin to fit into the suit? Well, and they were asking like Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, all these things about his character and stuff, and she's like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
What did you do with your hair?" And she's like, "What the fuck? Like, why are you asking me this?"
I did watch one of those compilations of like the most awkward celebrity interviews, and there was one with, I think it was either her and Chris Evans or her and Benedict or something, like because they matched them up. They did different like pairs throughout the whole press junket.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one where definitely the guy asked her, "Did you wear underwear under the thing?" And I think it was Evans who was just like, "Why didn't you ask me that question?" Like basically, like, do you not see how absurd that sounds if you were to ask it to me? So don't fucking ask the question. You jag off. Yeah.
I can't remember. It was something with Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley. And they said something to Keira Knightley that was something along the lines of something about her not looking right, or like she looked tired or something. And it was the beautifully done thing where like Benedict Cumberbatch immediately shut up and goes, "Wow, that was quite rude." And Keira goes, "Yeah, fuck off." Like it was two very different British responses to the question. One was Benedict's like very like polite way, "Oh, that was quite rude," and she was like, "Hey, oh yeah, fuck off!" Like just like it was the best, man. I absolutely loved it.
I love the fact that British people can get away with saying shit like that.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
We just sound angry. British people sound like, I'm like, I want to hear you insult me more.
That's what I was telling Jill. Also, the end of the highlight for the pummel party ends on a very great swear. And
yes,
what I was telling Jill is I go, you know, when Jared says that, I just like, it's so endearing. But when an American says it, it's got so much abrasiveness to it. It's so like, it's so hurtful. And I don't know, they say it like it's like, you know, you silly son of a bitch.
You fucker.
But when we say it, it's like, you're dead to me. You know, it's like, it's got these two very different connotations. So when you said like, I go, maybe it's just his Australian accent. I don't know, but I love it. Like when he says it, it's just like, no, thanks. Yeah, Jared dropped the C word. He did. But it's the Australian C word, so it's totally different. So only every other word.
But again, that's just like saying for them.
Yeah, right?
There's no difference. Down under.
Down under.
Down under.
Jared, I sure did. But what what's kind of like leading into this is, you know, actually I don't know if this is really a good segue or not, but
there's your segue to it.
And now a new topic.
That's, if we don't come up with the segue, 100%. That's it. When you hear this sound, we're on to something
Turn
else.
the page. We're going to a new topic.
That's it.
That was perfect.
We've solved it.
Oh, this is amazing. I love it. So John Oliver has been really working on tackling conspiracy theories, and I want to take a moment and say thank you to that person. Thank you to John Oliver.
Oh, my God.
For taking some, because I love a silly conspiracy as much as the next person. We talked about this way back, early episodes, when we had
Luke Knoll's episode.
The great and wonderful Luke Knoll, former SNL cast member, on, and we were just going through some of the craziest conspiracy theories. One of my favorites was that what was it, that the Denver airport was a gateway to hell?
Yep. It was a direct gateway to hell.
Yeah, it was real interesting.
And I always thought that was Newark Airport.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Jared's trying to type in the C word, and the mod's like, "Hey," it flagged it. It's like, do you want to say this? And I'm like, I'll allow it.
That's so good. Well done, Twitch, for keeping us safe.
What's funny is that Jared's a mod on this chat, so really, technically, he could have handled that himself. But you know,
that's true. Wow, falling down on the job there, Jared.
But you know, there's some things obviously with what's going on nowadays. It's so easy to look what's going on and hear stuff and old-fashioned heathen. Way to go, Jerry. I agree. I don't know who you are, old-fashioned heathen, but I like you. You are welcome to hang out with us whenever you want. You're welcome here.
You dove right into the pace of things very well.
You are 100% a part of this community, and we welcome you with open arms.
I watched the episode tonight, the John Oliver one. Right, I was having dinner, and it was fucking amazing because in typical John Oliver fashion, his researchers are just the best in the business, and he is just fucking amazing too. It was a great episode, absolutely great episode, and it made you laugh, but it also showed you the real danger of these conspiracy theories spreading.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, what do you think? I don't know, maybe it's covered in this episode. What about a conspiracy theory is so intriguing, or what draws people to that?
So one thing that he had a clip from a psychologist talking, and he said, the bigger the event, the more we want a conspiracy, the bigger the explanation needs to be. So these, like, for example, the assassination of JFK. There's no way that a lone gunman could have pulled this off. One single person in a building changed the course of the world. They stopped America and had a ripple effect across the globe. One person, that's not big enough. The explanation needs to be bigger. And so that generates in itself. In the 80s, when Reagan was shot, when the assassination attempt happened to him, he survived. And so it was the failure of one man. And that's very believable.
Interesting.
Dudes fail every day. Right? Like, so they're like, it's all proportional. So one man tries to assassinate the president, fails. Okay, that's believable. One man assassinates someone who was fighting for equality and all these different things. It's impossible. No one could have made that shot. Now we have to have a second. What about the grassy knoll? What about this inside job mob? So then it starts to, it's got to the satisfaction isn't there.
That's so fascinating because you're right, because it's almost like an improv, right? When we talked about don't bury the lead, you know,
right.
Like whatever you're talking about, say it, because all you're going to do is build up suspense, and whatever you're going to say is not going to be worth it. Like, I was watching an old scene of mine recently, and we were talking about, hey, what's in the box? And she's like, I don't want to tell her what's in the box. It's like, well, what's in the box? And she's like, oh, I can't. And everyone's like, open the fucking box. Like, this scene can't be about whether or not you're going to open the box. Open the fucking box. Like, just do it. We're wasting time. You're boring people. And so similarly with this, it's like, you know, yeah, like you said, this is a profound situation that's happening, right? It's got to be elaborate. It's got to be sinister, because I think it's scary to think, when you're talking about JFK, that one man could do that.
Right.
That's horrifying thought, right? That one person could pull that off versus, oh, this is a complex, interweaving conspiracy that allowed this cabal of powerful people to make this happen. And then you start creating your confirmation biases and you're finding things, you know, there's a lot of coincidences, and there's some things that will probably send chills up your spine when you look at something like that's kind of fucked up, you know?
Yep.
But people, you know, I remember after the Boston Marathon bombing, and Bill Burr actually made fun of this. This is why I found it, because he goes, there's a kid who's on YouTube who just shows a picture of someone that had a backpack. It's like, no one looked for this guy. He's like, smoked it. I smoked it. I smoked this thing. It was this guy. And I went back and I watched the video, and this kid just put together, it was just a photo of someone at this marathon that had a backpack. He's like, this guy did it. It's like, what? Basically, you didn't interview anybody. You didn't look at any evidence. And it's like that in so many ways. Like you've got armchair quarterbacks or Monday morning quarterbacks from everywhere. Like when
Absolutely,
it comes
man.
to education, the people that are like, hey man, send those kids back to school. We got to do it. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Right.
have you ever taught before? Nope.
Right.
But the governor of Missouri says, hey, they're going to go to school, and if they get it, they're just going to have to go home and deal with it. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't do that, man. You can't do that.
Yeah, man. That was, I mean, not to deviate too far, but like we have a friend who's a teacher and they're like, you want me to, with 24 kindergartners, you want me to make sure that they all keep a mask on, that they all sit at their desks from a safe distance. There's no recess. They can't get up and play with each other. They can't run around. They can't touch. They're like, and you want me to teach them shit. She's like, that's just not gonna happen. And she's like, for all these people who, want these are pushing to get these schools open, come on and teach for a week and see what it's like to try to keep these kids in fucking line.
Well, not only that, everyone wants the kids to go back to school. There's no person that's like, no. They want that. Sorry,
Right.
Etoy. Etoy's a teacher. He's like, don't get me started. I know, I understand. You're probably at the worst part of your summer break, which means that it's ending. So I apologize to bring this up, but I just want to say real quick. Just real quick. I just want to say, I don't want to talk about Betsy DeVos at all, but it's a situation where we all want to go back to school. We all want the kids to go back to school. The parents want the kids to go back to school because they need the kids to go back to school because they're working. It's hard to have kids. Online stuff right now is not super effective. The kids need to go back and have a good socialization process. They need to learn in there. They need to do that sort of stuff. The teachers want it done a certain way, right? Everyone wants the same thing, but they want it done with a plan. There needs to be a plan. We just can't say, send them back. It's like, no, how are we going to do this? And when governors are cutting budgets and then asking people to then, hey, we need more cleaning supplies. Sorry, we don't have the budget.
Right.
It's not going to work. So anyway.
It's funny because at the beginning of the episode, John Oliver takes, you know how he does like 5 minutes on one topic and then 20 minutes on like the bigger side. The opening is going back to school and he has some fucking gems in there.
Yeah.
How he just tears down the arguments that get thrown out there. Yeah. And he's like, the one thing he did say is like, if you listen to how all these people are setting up, and Beth actually said this to me too. She goes, if you listen to how all the people who are counter arguing and saying, well, our kids can't fall behind on education. No one's saying that teaching's not happening. That's not like they're spinning it to sound like if they don't go back to school, learning stops. False. There is an online learning aspect that can happen, but like, yes, we need to get kids back in school. But at the same time, if they don't, it doesn't mean learning has paused. But then that also leads into how conspiracies, it's all about phrasing and it's all about what people glom onto. And then that just kind of it rickrolls itself right down the block.
Well, more importantly, people are getting their information from poor sources. And that's really what it boils down to.
Accurate too, yeah.
A shocking amount of people are polling who are in charge and have severe responsibility are using bad information to make big decisions. And it's like, it's tough.
Something that we've talked about before and that John Oliver goes over, which I was like, I need to make a mental note of this because you have harped on this for as long as I've known you. And I'm like, Doug will love this. So your big thing with conspiracy theories is think about the magnitude of agreement that has to be in place for this to get fucking pulled off. And someone has created a mathematical equation to figure out how quickly a conspiracy would unravel based off of how big it is. So they said, as an example, they went, let's take the moon landing. A lot of people say that's a conspiracy. They said by this calculation, 411,000 people would have to have been in agreement and sworn to secrecy. 411,000 people. And he goes, for comparison, have you ever tried to throw a moderate-sized surprise party for your cousin Roxanne? He goes, no matter how many emails you send out with the subject saying, don't tell Roxanne, someone's gonna tell Roxanne. Well, Roxanne's finding out about this party.
Or to even more sinister levels, I know of a couple people who have been who've been in charge of orchestrating layoffs at companies recently.
Okay. All right.
And guess what? The secret gets out. Okay. People find out. People just loose lips, inadvertent, and then boom, it's off like wildfire. Like they have not been able to contain it because it's absolutely absurd. But what I like about what John Stewart, apologies, John Oliver is doing.
Oliver, yeah.
Is he created the website, thetruetruetruth.com.
Yeah.
And he's having celebrities more or less give wonderful, basically quick, less than 2 minutes PSAs, very kind, saying, hey, you're smart, think critically, double check your sources. And there's two that we've seen. One of them is from Alex Trebek, which God bless him. The guy's turning 80 tomorrow as of the day that we're recording this. So kudos to you, sir. And
Happy
another one.
birthday, Alex.
Happy birthday, Mr. Trebek. From Mind Gap Podcast. He's like, huh?
It is Alex Trebek, not Alec.
Did I say Alex or Alec?
No, I said Alec.
Okay. You fucking asshole.
My bad.
All right. Well, now you've learned your lesson.
Can we move on? Yeah. Alex Trebek has one. Paul Rudd has one.
Yes.
Catherine O'Hara had one. Billy Porter has one. There's a few other people they got. That's it.
Okay. I was like, there's a. What I'd like to do right now, though, is if you guys haven't seen this, I'm actually going to play the one from Paul Rudd real quick, and then we'll just kind of talk about it. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Paul Rudd, America's older brother / son-in-law / next-door neighbor / national treasure. Plus, I'm literally a superhero. The smallest one, but it still counts. Get comfortable. Take off your shoes. Things aren't exactly stable right now. Someone in your life told me that this uncertainty has you searching for answers about our current global health crisis. I think it's great that you're curious about the world around you. I'm curious too. I hear that you're searching for some pretty big answers to some even bigger questions. There's a lot of information on the internet nowadays, and not all of it is true. You know, I once thought that I was dead because #RIP Paul Rudd was trending. But after a lot of careful research, as well as a really hard slap to the face, I finally learned that I was in fact not dead. So, before you share something with your friends and family, it's good to ask yourself how much you know about where that information is coming from. Is that article or video from a trusted news source? If you're not sure, look to see if other news sources have reported the same thing. A good way to know if an idea or story that you've read about holds water is if a majority of trusted sources agree on it. And finally, think critically. You're smart. You're intelligent. Your intelligence is the thing that told you not to take off your shoes when I told you to take off your shoes. It was weird that I did that. And you knew better.
So that was National Treasure, Paul Rudd, as he stated himself. Very lovely. Sorry that the video froze, but the audio went through. So
okay, because I couldn't hear it, and I was just watching the stream. I'm like, are we just sitting in silence for an uncomfortable amount of time?
I will let it play on my end until it's done, and there will be no questions asked.
Did the podcast listeners heard that just now?
Podcast listeners won on that one.
All right, good. Thank God. So for a minute, our Twitch stream turned into a podcast.
They're like, I was like, you hear the audio? They're like, yeah. I'm like, good. That's all that matters.
That's all you need. John Cena did a really funny one too, where he talks about how he and John Oliver are the exact same age. Apparently, they were born on the same day, and he talked about how, like, he goes, "This is proof bodies age differently," and like he took his shirt off during the thing, and yeah, it was pretty good.
Sir Lord 84, welcome back. He says it should have been that speech with a Mac and Me clip in the background.
Oh yes, absolutely.
He goes, also one more thing, Mac and Me. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I do too.
Because these are people that, I mean, how can you not trust Alex Trebek?
Right.
How could you not trust Paul Rudd? Like
Catherine O'Hara.
Yes, like these are the folks that, and all they're saying is what I love is the messaging. Is it's very simple. It's like double check your source, and you are smart. Right. You are. Just give yourself an extra nudge before you do anything.
Critical thinking. Yeah. And that's all it's doing. All it's doing is, and it's not doing it tongue in cheek. It's doing it very. There's humor in it, but every one of these is very legitimately saying, hey, really think about this before you post it.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to spread truth when you just think for a second, you know?
Yeah. So if you guys want to check that out, you can head over to thetruetruetruth.com, and it's an entire website.
They've currently got 5 videos up there.
Built by John Oliver and his team, and they're just going to be adding stuff to it. And I just think it's more important than ever to think about this sort of stuff. I catch myself all the time asking or looking. I'm like, someone will post something. I'm like, what's the website? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that website is. I'm going to take that with a giant grain of salt. Or, I like the one of the things to say is like, is it corroborated with multiple trusted sites? And now there's an argument and probably a whole podcast to be had on what is a trusted news source these days. 'Cause that could be anything, right? I trust, Philip DeFranco. I think he does good work. You know, is that considered part of a trusted media source? I mean, what is it these days? It's difficult. So I think it's something really important, and I challenge myself to do it every day. And I challenge you, Justin. I challenge everyone who's listening and watching. Do your due diligence. Double check your shit.
And I think the big thing to say about this is not, because there's been a few times I can think very specifically that I could have used something like this to send out to certain individuals. But I think the big thing to remember is that this isn't just, I think what some people might hear is that, oh, this is the left trying to push this and this. This doesn't go left or right. Like, there are people on the left who spread just as much misinformation as people on the right. And so, like, what I want anyone who's listening to this to hear is that it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, or if you fall dead in the middle, it never hurts to fact check where you're coming from, because the last thing you want to do is hurt your point by arguing a false. And now, like, the minute that you argue something false, a false argument, all your validity is stripped away.
Yeah.
And so now anything you're arguing becomes invalid to the person you're trying to convince. So don't do that to yourself. Just doesn't matter where you are. Think about it. That's all. Just double check.
It's true, because you're willing to sacrifice the truth to hit your agenda or your position. And it's unfortunate when that happens. And Itoy says, I hate following my former students on social media because it's basically just a repeat of them in class. Stop copying and pasting from Wikipedia, kid, or actually read the article. I would hate to be a teenager now in the midst of all this. I mean, I feel like I got some sort of talk about this when I was in high school about what's a credible source, right when the internet was out, like, what do you look for? And we checked all those marks, but those were really easy to spot back in the day. They were shitty websites.
Yes.
Really easy to spot, which was bad. But nowadays, hey, do you know how quick and easy it is to build something on Squarespace? Head over to Squarespace. I mean, it's drag and drop. It's easy. There's templates. It's so easy to build stuff nowadays to make it look good, which always blows my mind when someone still does a shitty job. It really
does sound like this is an ad, man.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, I feel like I should. All right, go ahead. Talk to me about Squarespace.
Hey,
Squarespace.
Hey, listen here, fuckers. It's time that you get on the internet the right way. Head over to squarespace.com/poop today to get started now. Oh man. Yeah, there's so much shit out there. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to navigate it as a kid. Not to mention how much shit would I be putting out there.
Oh, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the people who it's the kids who copy and paste from Wikipedia who are like, they don't even bother to go down the next level. And it's not just the kids, it's the adults, it's the whomever that does that. But I think what's even more difficult is it's getting harder and harder. You can do your research, but and we talked about this very briefly last week, but with AI and deep fakes and everything like that, it's getting harder and harder to even be able to discern what is and what is not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's you can do all the research in the world, but if someone put out like a good like, because I think Trump actually tweeted a deep fake video, or someone retweeted, it was someone saying something false, and they knew that it was false, and they doubled down on it. They were just like, yeah, this is not going to delete it. This is what they said. And it was like, no, like but it's hard to disprove that unless you go back and find that specific press conference. And it's getting better quality, and it's really, really hard to disprove that.
Well, it's interesting
Snopes
that you
is a
say
great-
that. What'd you say?
Etoy says Snopes is always a good starting point. Absolutely.
Yeah. But you bring up a good point, is like trying to know what's real and what's not, because deep fakes are out there. Y'all ever heard of deep fakes? Well, if you haven't, deep fakes.
Go to Pornhub.com.
Go to
Type in
Pornhub.
deep fake.
And see what you get. It's essentially.
Hold on. Hey, do you want to be cool on the internet? Head over to Pornhub.com. Type in deepfake and get ready for the spank of your life. All right.
Can I use that as a clip for a promo this week?
I wish you wouldn't.
With that bit in there too, me asking you.
Yeah.
I wish you wouldn't.
I wish you wouldn't.
No, deepfakes essentially are AI generated things that allow people to put faces on other people, to modulate voices to make them sound like other things, other people, to the point where it's hard to determine whether or not something is real or fake. And this has been happening for several years now. And recently, there was, I think it was MIT that did this, or no, I think MIT reported on this. But there's this thing, there's this website called moondisaster.org, which is completely different from assdisaster.org. So don't go to that one.
We'll get to the butt in a second.
We'll get to the butt in a second. But I'll post the
butt
link.
in a second.
I'll post the.
Are we in an echo chamber?
I'll put. Yeah, I broke it. I broke the combo. But essentially, moondisaster.org is it's a video that was built by some folks to test how well people can determine whether or not something is a deep fake, whether it's real or not. And essentially what it does is, the premise is, in 1969, the world gathered to watch the moon landing. It was extraordinarily risky, so a backup speech was written in case the mission failed. Thankfully, it was never delivered until now. And then what happens is... what happens is they filmed this speech that Nixon gave saying that, the mission didn't go well.
Well, they didn't film it. What they did was they went through and they found a speech that they liked Nixon's, how he was kind of his demeanor, more of a serious demeanor, brow furrowed, this and that. And then they altered the mouth to say the words of a speech that was actually written. And then they had an actor read the speech as Nixon.
Exactly. Well, he read it, and then they
Yes.
modulated his voice to become like Nixon because they wanted to be as
with
natural as
fucking
possible.
AI learning.
Now, it took him 3 months to do this. Like, this was not necessarily a simple thing
Just like
to
pop
do.
this out over the weekend.
But they made it clear, like, and the thing is about this, after you watch this, they have like a crap ton of articles that are super fascinating that I highly recommend you read. Part of them was, part of it was saying how it took them 3 months to do this because they wanted to prove a point. But there was another person for a mere $500 showed people, like, documented how they could do it and they did it in like a day. Like, it was really quick and easy to see how they did this. So it's one of those things where I get spooked about it because, we talk about conspiracy theories, you talk about all that sort of stuff. It's easily used for wrong. And right now, I think it's one of those things where I think they say most of it's used for porn now, where they take someone else's face, attach it to a porn star's body, and roll from there, which is obviously very disturbing. There was someone, I think there was actually an activist in Australia that reverse searched her photo and found a whole bunch of porn that she had never filmed that she was in. They essentially, random person took her picture, and she was 18, took her photo, slapped it on a porn star's body, and just posted it everywhere. So here she was, this likeness of her was all over the internet, and it wasn't her. And so she essentially started an advocacy group to stop this stuff from happening.
Because I was going to say, like, how easy is that, too, to just completely tank if you're going out for a job interview, you don't realize this is out there. Someone does a background check on you, pulls that up, and now they're like, well, we can't have you working here. Why? Well, you
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't. Well, we can see it's you, so too bad.
I fucking, yeah. How terrifying would that be? Actually, after reading that, I went and reverse searched my own photo today, one of my photos. I was just like, I don't know, what shows up, you know?
So yeah, my deepfake of you is still rendering. It takes a lot of power, but
cool.
yeah, it's coming.
I love Sirloin 8. We have the best fucking fans that love callbacks, but Sirloin says, was her face on an emu? Take that, Jared. But I thought this site was cool too because they also talked about the benefits of it, which I was like, I don't know what the benefits are other than just satire and comedy. But apparently, you can use this sort of stuff to help almost eliminate ADR in films. Because instead of like having someone come back in to re-record the audio and everything, they can actually use the technology to produce the audio anyway and just fix it up, which would save time and money.
I feel like we're getting back into that James Dean realm, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends. Like, again, if I'm like, hey, let's put James Dean's voice in here. I mean, that's one thing. But if you filmed a movie and I was in it, and then for whatever reason the audio was shitty that day, we couldn't quite catch it, and you're like, we got to pay Doug to come back in. He's got to come in and do probably ADR, which no one likes to do. It's going to take us time and money. We got to get just right. And we all know it's not going to sound right in the film. You know, you're going to be like, that's an ADR line. So instead be like, we have his voice. We have his vocal patterns. We'll just use this machine to fill it in. It's almost like, what do they call it? Oh, there was something else they're talking about. It was almost like a Photoshop, for like some post-editing stuff, which I think is pretty cool.
I feel like the only time I would be okay with that is if the actor was brought into the decision.
100%.
If the studio's like, you know what? We don't need to pay him for this. We'll just fill in this monologue that he has with this other thing. Then I'm like, well, no, now you're taking away from the art part of what we're doing here, you know?
No, I totally agree. That would totally have to be something that was consensual, and I would like to think that, I don't know, but I have to assume that ADR fucking sucks. Like, I have to assume that trying to get that just right, and it's got to suck for like the audio guys too, to make sure that the volume is right, that it's as seamless as possible. It's got to be a giant pain in the ass
for everyone.
Agreed. I'm obviously on.
I'll say this. I had a buddy who was, when we were at Columbia, I had a buddy who was in the sound for film department. And one of the projects is that they needed to do ADR for, they got a scene from The Abyss and they needed to they basically muted it. They stripped everything out. So they had to sound design it. They had to put music in it, and they had to get people to come in and voice it. And he asked if I could come in and do a part in it.
What part did you do?
So
let me guess. You were Michael Bean's role. You were the villain.
No, it was a very small part. My role was when the guy is when they're dropping the mechanism or the submersible down. Mm-hmm. And the storm's coming, and I'm the guy in the yellow slicker who's in the actual thing who's like, turn the wench down on one. So I'm the guy who's actually screaming stuff on the phone.
That's awesome.
Up in the cabin.
Okay.
So go back and watch that movie. That's who I played.
That's who you played in a student version of the film.
You got it. In a student version of that scene. But I had a great time doing it. I thought it was really fun. Now, that being said, I didn't have to, after 3 months of shooting, I didn't have to travel and come back in and do it again and do a 10-hour session. I was in there for maybe 2 hours. It was fun, but I could also see where it could be, annoying.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think they also talked about how they could use it to translate languages without having to people do dubs for films.
See, that's interesting.
Now, that obviously would kill some jobs, without a doubt, but I can't stand dubs. I can't. And if you were able to make it so that it would automatically translate with the original person's voice, it makes it more authentic. So it would also hurt Slotty, because Slotty loves subtitles, and it would just kill the subtitle industry, I mean, it's still going to exist. But
true.
I mean, people are gonna be like, I don't need that shit anymore, man. They're speaking
That's
the
true.
language straight up. So
Yeah, man, I would highly suggest people go over to this moondisaster.org website because it's fascinating. It's fascinating to go through and read about it and see it. And even though you're watching a deep fake, like when they still ask you the questions, it's still interesting to.
there's
to
a
go through all
4-question
of it.
quiz on this that's basically say, can you tell what is deep faked and what's not?
Right.
And it's actually really tough. I didn't
Yeah.
trust my instincts. I got really in my head about it. I was like,
I did too. I
um,
did too.
but I think it's really, really cool. It's worth noting. And, obviously I didn't have enough time to go through all the articles, but I was very curious about it. Like, it was very cool to see the research that they did for this. And I think it's really important to just be aware of this stuff. I've seen a lot of silly stuff where people have taken different actors' faces and put them, in other movies. Like, I think recently they did one with Tom Holland as Marty McFly and Robert Downey Jr. as like Dr. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future. So they just put them in a scene together, like from the movie. I was like, it's very funny stuff. There's a lot of deep fake stuff that they do with comedians pretty consistently, but there's also just a lot of stuff that, could really be used for wrong very easily. And it gives me a little bit of pause to see this sort of stuff and how it could potentially be used. But going back to your point, it's kind of like calling back to some stuff with conspiracy theories. Like, this takes a lot of effort to do well. These folks spent 3 months to do a 6-minute video. And it was a lot of work. They took you through the whole process with what they had to do it right and to do it well. And everything they had to scrub through to make this happen. Now, part of it, too, is they chose older footage. So that footage was harder to manipulate and and everything like that. So it would probably be easier to do with newer. I mean, they did it with Barack Obama, recently, where they were using a fake Barack Obama speech to talk about the dangers of deep faking, which was super ironic.
Kind of fun. Yeah, exactly.
And everything like that. So it is very possible to do this sort of stuff. So I think that should always be, because the technology is only going to get better. And that's the thing. It's going to be kind of spooky what comes down the pipeline. So
I think the places where I've seen it used where I'm like, oh, this is fun is in
your butt.
We'll get to the butt in a second.
Told you we would.
Instagram. People like Jay Farrow who have done who do like Denzel Washington impressions and things like that. Like people who impressionists, I got comedians who do impressions. People applying deepfakes to them. It's really interesting to see to really like, because they got the voice down and they've got the mannerisms, but to overlay that face, it's really fucking freaky. And like in that aspect, I'm like, that's kind of fun, but it rides a very very murky line.
Yeah, it really does. Sly
Yeah.
says he now wants to create a deep fake of me extolling the virtues of Thomas Edison. Slotty, you can go fuck yourself. And Thomas Edison can go fuck himself. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he can.
Yeah.
Doug, your disdain for Thomas Edison and how much you just like hate him and want to probably, like, if you got the chance, how much you would want to fight him makes me think of the throwdown.
Yes!
Yes!
Throwdown!
So today's throwdown, we teased this a little bit on Twitter because someone posted a question that we responded to, and then I was like, shit, that would make an interesting throwdown. Someone teased the question, would Captain America break his hand if he punched Luke Cage? And that was like, that's a very fascinating question. So today, for that, we're doing Captain America versus Luke Cage.
I love it. But first, I just want to call out a comment. Jervis says, I want a deep fake of Doug saying boats are a good idea. Also, fuck you. So there we go. So Cap
Guys,
versus...
if you clip this episode very specifically, Doug technically just said boats are a good idea. So you can get that, clip it, send it to me, and I will make it on the soundboard. All right? That's
boats
your job now.
I almost said it. I almost gave you a freebie. I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No.
What aren't you going to do?
I'm not going to do anything. So Cap versus Luke Cage. Here's the thing. I only know Luke Cage from the show.
Okay.
I think Luke Cage in the comic might be much more powerful. But
Well, let me go over some of his attributes.
let's do it.
Superhuman strength and stamina, as pretty much everyone in the superhero world has.
Yeah, right.
Dense skin and muscle tissue, which render him highly resistant to physical injury. He possesses these abilities as a result of cellular regeneration experiment, which fortified various tissues of his body. He can resist high caliber bullets, puncture wounds, corrosives, biological attacks, and extreme temperatures and pressures without sustaining damage. A second exposure to said elements further enhance his strength and durability. So if he gets exposed and he survives, he's even more durable next time.
Wow.
Let's see. Faster than normal recovery time. He's a great street fighter, gifted athlete, martial artist. He studied under Iron Fist, not the TV show version. Learning how to couple leverage, with his strength. So yeah, so he's got combat experience, not as tactical as Captain America, but pretty. I'll say this: in the show, we talked about this off mic a little bit. On the show, he takes a shotgun blast to the face and it knocks him out.
Yeah.
I would say, what would happen if Captain America took a shotgun blast to the face? Probably wouldn't end the same way. So right there, I gotta
Advantage.
Advantage Cage. So yeah.
Well, it's tough because I don't know what Cap can do outside of maybe slamming his shield to Luke Cage's face to maybe knock him out. Like that's about the only thing
Sure.
I could possibly think of, because he could punch him, and I think Slotty makes a point here. Highly resistant doesn't mean the skin is any harder. It's still squishy. It's just resistant.
False. Extremely dense skin and muscle tissue. So the skin is denser, which means it's harder.
It's denser, but it's not like you're punching like a brick wall or anything, right?
I mean, based off of what we've seen, it does seem like that. Yes.
So, I would like to think that Cap could, I would say, do some damage in quotes, I guess, but I don't know what that means, like,
Right.
because
I mean, they both have stamina, right?
Yeah.
They're both the one thing Captain does have going for him is that he is far superior as far as like a tactician goes.
Yeah, and I would say he's probably a better fighter than Luke Cage, because I mean, you see it in the fighting style in the show and everything like that. Like, he just sort of walks in and punches. Like, he's not nimble. He's not like agile, because he doesn't need to be. Like,
Right.
he doesn't need to
again,
cover
in the
himself
comics,
up,
Yeah. In the right, he doesn't need to be he doesn't need to worry about defense. He can purely go offense.
He's just like, whatever, punch.
Yeah.
So
now,
my
in the
question,
comics,
go ahead.
I was gonna say in the comics he is very adept at martial arts, but we did not see that, in fairness, in the show.
Yeah. So, and then my next question would be like, could Cap get him in a sleeper hold?
It's a good question.
Could he do it that way?
Because it's super strength versus super strength at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, because it could Cap put enough pressure on his carotid artery to basically make him pass out. And if so,
Right.
I would still, now it's not to the death, but I consider that a win, right?
That definitely would be a win. Slotty says Cap could do this all day.
I say, yay! That was pretty good, actually. That was pretty good. I didn't see that coming.
So I'll say this: if you on a couple websites, a couple forums, these two have squared off a few times, and on this one here, it's close, but 54.3% have Luke Cage winning, and 45.7% have Cap winning. 19-16 wins if you run it through the simulator.
That's hilarious.
A lot of other people, Cap wins, but Luke is stronger. Someone says Luke Cage by far. Anyone who says Cap is clearly delusional. I feel like Slotty might have written that. Let's see. Cage can lift 10 to 15 tons. That's normal Asgardian stats. Cap can lift these nerds. These fucking nerds. Cap can lift 800 pounds to 1 or 2 tons at the most. Plus, Cage has almost unbreakable skin and a healing factor unless Cap uses the environment to help him. In a straight-out fight, Cap loses. Even with the shield, the moment he loses it, it's done. Kind of like the fight with Loki.
It's pretty fair, man. That's a pretty fair assessment. Like
Yeah.
so
10 to
much
25 tons. That's ridiculous.
something would there would be have to a lot would have to go in Cap's corner. Like a lot would have to just go his way because again, like there's no easy way to beat Luke Cage. Like there's no
Yeah.
he doesn't have magic. He doesn't have
Right.
like a mythological hammer. You
Right.
know, like he's not shooting him with lightning or whatever. Like
The only time that Cage got hurt was that he got knocked up by that shotgun blast, and then those special rounds
yeah, the
that
armor piercing
somehow
rounds
pierced
or
his-
whatever.
whatever it was. But Cap's not going to be armed with those,
No.
and unless he gets some sort of incendiary device inside of Luke Cage, I don't see it happening, man.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a situation where, like, again, I think what this person said is right. Like, Cap has to use his environment, or he has to be able to, even if he just, I guess, choke him out. I guess he could kill him. Just keep pressure on him until he dies. Just cuts out blood to his brain. That's the
But
only way
again,
I could see that. But I mean, you gotta,
he's got to get behind him, and he's got to hang on.
yeah. What's to stop, Cage from just going like, rah, or somehow he gets him in some sort of lock where he can't do anything. I mean, I don't know, man. That's. I think I hate to admit it because my heart is with Cap, but I think Luke Cage wins this one.
I know I was going to say you definitely are a Cap fan, but I do think are we saying it? Are we saying
I think so.
Luke Cage for the win?
It happened. It happened.
Wow. All right.
Not happy about it, but it happened, man. It happened. Well, that was a fun
Am I
one.
going to agree with Justin here? No, I don't think I will. So Slotty, you definitely agree that Cap. Interesting. Okay. I want to hear arguments though. All I've heard from you is Cap could do this all day, which is clever, but not an argument. And then Jared says the important question is who's a better cuddler?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd go with Cap, man. That guy's going to be tender. He's going to take care of you, you know?
He's been cuddling for 90 years.
Yeah. He knows. He knows how to
So
do
there's
it.
that.
He knows how to do it just right. Well,
Nicolas Cage has a Luke Cage tattoo. Therefore, Luke wins.
Fair.
Jared
point.
puts the period at the end of that sentence.
Well, that was a blast. Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the folks who are chiming in here. This was great. This is always fun when we get that sort of activity. Justin, what do you think you'd like to recommend for this week? I see what you wrote for me. Why don't you go ahead and share what...
Actually, I did not write that for you. I thought you wrote that for me because I deleted what I thought you wrote for me.
Oh, boy. So it seems like we've got a third party that's guilty for shenanigans.
Yeah, someone's shenaniganing in our topic episode guide list here.
How dare you?
I honestly, I can't remember what mine said. It was funny, but I was like, no, we're going to delete that. If the guilty party wants to put it in the chat, that's fine. I'm going to recommend, I watched last night, The Two Popes on Netflix. It was far more interesting than I thought it was going to be. The
What's it
acting,
about?
of course, is fantastic. It's about two popes.
All right, then. There we go.
Cool. Are you serious when you guys?
I don't know what that is.
Really?
I
It was
don't
up for an Academy Award. Okay.
What,
I
in
just thought you'd be more hip to
1967?
that. No, last year.
What's it about?
It's about two popes, Doug. No, it's about when Pope Benedict retired, which was unprecedented for a pope. The last time someone renounced the papacy was in like the 1200s. So like it was one of those where they were like, "You can't do this," and he said, "Yeah, I can." And then the current pope was the one who took over. So it was the two of them meeting and kind of going through this decision that was being made, which again was like in the Catholic realm was completely unprecedented and a lot more. Well, also I'll say this: Pope Benedict was when the time when Vatican documents got leaked. The Bank of the Vatican was doing some real shady shit, and that's when all of the pedophile stuff really started to come out. So Benedict's reign as Pope was really questionable, and so it was the dialogue between these two actors. The person who wrote the movie did a fantastic job. These two actors, Anthony Hopkins and I'm going to forget the other guy's name. Hold on. I got to do it justice. Anthony Hopkins and Jonathan Pryce did a stellar job keeping you hooked the entire time. And there was some really interesting from a direction standpoint too. I actually really thought some of the shots were cleverly done, and some of the transitions and edits were great. So I think I was very, very surprised at how much I liked it.
I
I would
100% have never heard of this movie.
I'm very surprised because it got a lot of advertisements. So I'm really legitimately, like, joking aside, I'm very surprised you never heard of it.
Never. I haven't heard a goddamn thing about this.
Yeah, it was up for the one of the Academy. I don't know which one, but
Huh.
anyway,
Interesting.
it was well done. If you're looking for more of a drama, um, it's just over 2 hours, but honestly, again, I thought it was very well done. So I would highly recommend it. And then also, if you just want to feel good, look up the story about the boy who saved his sister. He
Oh,
jumped
right.
in front of a dog to save his sister. The dog got part of his face. He had to have plastic surgery. And now all of these superheroes are reaching out to him. Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Pratt and all of these are reaching out, telling him what a superhero he is. And it's just such a fucking feel good story.
It's awesome. I love that shit.
This kid he is what we need in this world. So
100%.
go look that up and give one of those posts a like, because that's awesome. Doug, what do you got?
Well, I think your original thing you were going to say was scamming loved ones into back rubs. I think that was originally what you were going to recommend.
That's what it was. Yes. That's why I thought you put that on there. But okay. Anyway,
I mean, I'm honored that you would think that I would do that. I mean, that's a huge compliment to me, and I'll take it. What was written for me was Rule 34 Goblin Porn trilogies in 5 parts. I did tweet about a random fan fiction called, what was it, Hot Goblin Girls or something like that? Part 5. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's disturbing like synopsis. It was gross. But honestly, this is going to be such a random recommendation. The Talented Mr. Ripley. It's on HBO Max. It's a great movie. I like it. It was on. I rewatched it over the weekend when I got up early with the dog, and I'm like, I feel like watching something. Hey, Talented Mr. Ripley's on HBO Max. Also on HBO Max, Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, really?
I mistakenly scrolled all the way down, and I'm like, Adult Swim. I go, I wonder. And I looked, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, all episodes are there. And I immediately spent just about 40 to 50 minutes watching episodes, and I'm like, amazing. Fuck, I love this show.
I love... Yeah, that
so
show
good.
is so good. Yeah,
so good, so random, and just
Carl is the best character ever.
I watched an episode I hadn't seen before, and there's just this episode of him trying to he drives drunk, and he gets a breathalyzer put on his car, and he tries to convince people to drive him to the strip club. And it's pure nonsense. And
I love it. There's
literally no reason why I should like this show based on the humor, but I fucking love it. To me, it just tickles me in every way. I absolutely love it. It's the typical Adult Swim show. It is amazing. Yeah. It's so good. So any of those. So in case you guys don't know, I want to plug this one more time. We have a video game stream every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central. Twitch.tv/MindGapPodcast. Come hang out. We're doing Joke Boat this Saturday. We've got our 2 fellas from the Reviewniverse podcast, Steve Leishman, Chris Muller, are coming by. They're going to join us. So you should come by too. We're going to be playing Joke Boat, Quiplash, all sorts of shit. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so much fun. So come hang out. It'll be really fun. It'll be silly time. And then also don't forget to check us out on all our social medias at MindGap Podcast. We do all sorts of silly stuff. And then also check out our YouTubes. Our YouTubes. We have multiple. Just one.
Go over there on the YouTubes.
Go on over to the YouTubes. We post all of our episodes, our highlights, some highlights from our streams, from the podcast, everything. It's oh boy, almost unprofessional there. It's a real hoot and a half. So go follow us on all that sort of stuff. So, and also don't forget to follow Justin on social media as well.
On Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on
Spotify,
and on Google, specifically Spotify, and on Google Podcasts. Wherever you can find and consume podcasts, you can find and consume us. Gross. While you're in the online realm, check us out on tuistaith.com/mindgap, and then just click around on Tui State's website. We're revamping it. You're going to see a lot of changes happening on a daily basis, and we've got a new blog that we just started. Slotty penned the first entry to that, and it talks about if movie theaters should move towards embracing streaming. So please check that out. It's Tui Staith Blogs. And Yeah, again, share us around. The big thing that means the most to us and does the most for us is if you can share our episodes. So just copy wherever you're listening to us. If it's on the website, if it's somewhere on one of those apps, just copy the link to the either the entire show or one of the episodes that you're listening to and paste it out and just say, hey, randomly on some random day, just be like, hey, if you guys are bored, listen to this. Here's why I like them. That means so much to us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Very much appreciate it. And speaking of that, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Twitch, thank you.
Listeners, as always, thank you.
The OGs. Have the OGs, the always the ones, our sun, our moon, our stars, our Earth's crust, our core, everything. Have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.